Hello, friends, one and all. Welcome in. My name is Matt Murphy, and this is the Matt Murphy Radio Show, underway for another day and another week on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Pardon me as I adjust these settings and make sure everything's ready to go. Let's get it on. 3 hours of what I hope to be talk radio excellence on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. We'll hand off to the drive at that time. Already, you've had Dan Mandis in Nashville's Morning News, Chris Hand, and the Chris Hand Show. Now it's time for the afternoon crew. Thank you so much to Jeff Malinoff for filling in for the vacationing Bell K last week. More on that coming up in just a moment. And thank you very much to Cameron Smith for filling in for me Friday. I was in for Brian Wilson. For those who missed it, I was on the drive last Friday from 3 until 7. So I was here and present and accounted for, but not during my normal slot from noon until 3. Lots to get into on this Monday edition, as you might expect, on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It is September 23rd, 2024. Let's get the pleasantries out of the way. Locked for Trump Day 205. That's right, for 205 full days. I've been growing out my hair until we have a new president-elect. And yeah, I started this long before it was a fait accompli that we would have a new president-elect after the election that culminates on November 5th, which, if you believe some of the mainstream media cycle over the weekend, it's over. Oh, it's over. I have a lot to say about that during the Libertarian Lunchtime Hour. It is also day 657 of our visits together on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. And according to my mathematics, and I hope I have this correct, 42 plus days, 42 and some hours before we have an election, an official election day, despite the fact that many people are able to vote in a variety of states all across this great United States of America. Hope everyone had a wonderful weekend. Hope everybody had a good time. If you're a Titans fan, I know you've got to have enjoyed your Sunday afternoon. If you're a Tennessee Volunteer fan, you probably enjoyed your Saturday evening. If you're an Oklahoma Sooner man, probably not so much. But more on that a little bit later on. The players of the show, Ken Weaver, I mentioned that Oklahoma man. He's behind the glass making sure that all of the headlines are gotten to twice an hour when news breaks. And then there is the long-haired one, even longer than mine. He was out for a full week, and to get a complete and comprehensive analysis of what he did on his vacation, ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to reintroduce you to the one and only Headless Bell K. Hello, Bell.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Please, guys, sit down. Come on. What are y'all doing?
It's embarrassing.
Jeez.
Trying to run a show here.
Nelly.
All the way from the other room.
How's it going, Bell?
I'm exhausted.
Are you now?
I am burnt.
Need a vacation
I need
from
a
your
vacation from my vacation.
That's a good vacation, right?
I guess so, yeah.
Huh? How about that? We missed you. Ken and I missed you as much as we like KGB.
Well, I know Ken did.
I missed you, Brother Bell.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I would think
Ken
that
was calling me, going, "When are you coming back?"
I would think that Weaver would get accustomed to, you know, what's the old song? I got accustomed to her face. That's the old My Fair Lady song.
Oh yeah.
Ken gets accustomed to the back of your head.
Yeah,
that's right.
Doesn't have quite the ring to it, but.
No.
Well, did anything special happen over the course of the week that you feel like the audience would want to know about?
Not really. Did a lot of things I shouldn't have, probably more than I should have.
How's Tanya? Did you talk to her at all?
Yeah, she's gone.
Is she gone?
She
gone. Left you?
She left me.
Ken, do you know that story?
I rented her for a while, and she left me.
For Bell's birthday, I got him. It's become somewhat of a tradition because I know Bell likes the tequila. And so I got him he doesn't drink that much, but, on special occasions. I mean,
it's Thursday.
I'm trying to protect whatever sliver of reputation you have left, Bell.
Don't put your efforts into that. Use your energies for better things.
Anyway, I bought him a branded tequila that was Tanya Tucker came out with this Tanya Tucker tequila.
Well, I'm going to try me some of that.
Come on.
You know it's got to be good if Tanya Tucker's making tequila.
And Bell spent the week with Tanya Tucker last week.
It was, what was the other, Black Sheep? Was that?
Yeah, that was the other one.
That was amazing. This was okay.
Wait a minute, John Anderson's got tequila too?
No, he should. That stuff was great. He gave me a bottle of Black Sheep tequila last year, and it was literally, I'm not exaggerating, best tequila I've ever tasted in my life.
I've not gone back to the store that I originally got it from, which might still have it. I've tried to find it every time I've looked for you a liquor gift since, and I can't find it.
The Tanya stuff was very bland. Not a lot of notes, not a lot of taste to it. Very smooth, but it just didn't have, like, the taste in the Black Sheep was extremely good.
Wait, give the review again. Just like you gave it. Just give it again and wait for the punchline. Y'all ready? Here's the big punchline, everybody. All right, ready? Go. Give the review again. Tanya Tucker Tequila?
Was very bland, very smooth.
Kind of like her musical career. Thank you. Thank you. That's so mean. That's wrong. That's a joke. That's just, I did it for the, I like Tanya Tucker. Y'all
I love you, Tanya, even if he doesn't.
I did it for the sake of the joke.
Let me ask you this, Brother Bilal. Did you put the tequila in the freezer and did it freeze?
No, I didn't try that because I like my tequila at room temperature.
Yeah, if your tequila freezes, you got a problem.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
And that has happened. My wife went off and she bought some tequila just as a lark. One of these celebrities she watches. Mm-hmm. We will not be buying that tequila anymore. It's one of the Jenner ladies.
Well, if it freezes, then
that means they're cutting it with water. And it's got a low alcohol content.
That's exactly right.
I drank the whole bottle, and I was still wrestling my neighbors and winning.
Good Lord. That's kind of a ripoff. Well, I mean, not kind of. That is a ripoff.
I was yelling at him, and I going back for more.
Tequila or more neighbors?
Neighbors.
Well,
if next time you go for a bottle of tequila, get some Black Sheep because that stuff is amazing.
Let me tell you something. I'm going to try any tequila with a name like Black Sheep.
Yeah.
Mr. Weaver, how was your weekend outside of the obvious?
You know what? My weekend was really good. I mean, I had a great time this weekend. Now, that football game was disturbing. It ended like I figured it would. The score, I think, was a little deceiving. Because I think Josh Heupel kind of lit. He didn't put he didn't put the pedal to the metal like I thought he was going to. Now some of that was Oklahoma. We were causing them some turnovers, and I think Josh was wise to do what he did because he could tell that we did not have an offense. His defense was clearly in control,
right?
And he did what he needed to do to win and get out of there with as few injuries as possible.
I've got great news for you Sooner fans, Ken.
What's that?
I've got great news for you.
What, we got an offense?
No, you seem to have an off week. You're playing Auburn this week, which is a great bit of news for you.
Yeah, we'll see.
Well, I think y'all will be just fine. If there's y'all have a great defense.
We do have a good defense.
Y'all have some offensive issues. But y'all, I mean, look, I don't care how it happened. Holding that incredible, I mean, what might be SEC record-breaking offense that Tennessee's got this year to 25 points. I mean, I know, there's no moral victories or all of that, but, I mean, it was respectable at the end of the game.
Yeah, at least it wasn't 71.
That's true. That's true.
So,
speaking of foosball, we got a little game in Tuscaloosa this week.
Bobby Boucher.
Very excited about it.
Oh yeah, that's going to be a big deal.
I spent, and we won't talk about that. We're not the sports station.
That's
if
right.
you want all that, you can get to the sports station. But I do want to talk to you about this aspect of it. You'll appreciate this, Ken.
Right.
Being in a stranger in a strange land, right?
Yes, sir.
You're a Sooner in the middle of the state of Tennessee. I'm a Bulldog in the middle of the state of Tennessee.
Hostile territory.
Well, for 20 plus years, I was a Bulldog in the middle of the state of Alabama, and absent those football relationships, I feel like I developed a lot of good and solid relationships with people that supported the Crimson Tide.
Right.
Well, they are ghosting me. The entire state of Alabama is ghosting me this week because I had a couple of leads on tickets to the game, and I thought I was good. I thought I was going to be into an area of the stadium called the Zone.
Right.
Well, that fell apart because apparently I was too much of a Bulldog or something. I don't know what happened there. Had a couple of other things fall through, and now every person that I used to know in the state of Alabama is ghosting me. I wonder why.
They're just not responding to any of your calls.
No, hey, you guys got... Well, here's the thing. I'm a little ticked off at Donald Trump.
Uh-oh.
Because before, this was always going to be, for those who don't know.
He's going to go to the game, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's the Georgia Bulldogs, number 2 team in the country, playing the Alabama Crimson Tide, and I have a fear that we're going to get our butts whipped, but whatever. I always think that. So before Donald Trump made the announcement, tickets were, $250, $300, get in.
Right.
Which is a lot of money.
Is that abnormal?
Yes, that's all. I mean, to get in, to give you an example, I looked this morning, Oklahoma and Auburn. Now, Oklahoma is, kind of iffy. Auburn's having a horrible season. At Jordan-Hare Stadium, same state, same passion, get-in ticket is $38.
Good Lord.
When Trump made the announcement that he was coming to the game, 2 days later, get-in tickets to Bryant-Denny Stadium are now $500. That is upper deck, get in the stadium tickets.
Yeah, that's just getting in there.
That's just being able to see the game from, I don't know, about 12,000 feet in the air where those upper deck seats
You're
are.
talking probably close to Super Bowl prices for 50-yard line on.
I'm talking lower bowl. What I saw in lower bowl was $950 a ticket.
Man, it's a lot of money for a game, but
That's
there's
a lot
people
of
out there that'll pay it.
Well, but that shows you how Trumpy Trump moves the needle, too.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's a big game anyway. It would have been an expensive ticket anyway, but the idea that he's going to be there has just inflamed the passions of the Alabama faithful. And so, yeah, all of my Crimson Tide fan base, supporters when I was down there in Birmingham, ghosting me. Hey, guys, where are y'all? I feel like, did y'all ever see, I'm going to do this for the Super Talk TV. Did y'all ever see, remember that scene in Pulp Fiction where John Travolta's going, where'd everybody go? I'm like, hey, anybody got tickets? And then there's crickets. But
Just
that's okay.
nothing.
That's okay. I have a 70-inch television at my house that is 4K. And that I can watch the Georgia Bulldogs get their butt whipped in high definition.
I don't know about that, Brother Murphy.
I don't know. We'll see.
I mean, you'll be watching it in
You're
high
always
definition.
a pessimist about that.
We'll
He's
see.
like I am.
We'll see.
Although, it's dude, I don't know who's going to win this game.
I go back and forth because, they talk about Georgia and Kentucky and blah, 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 but who've they played?
Haven't they won the last two meetups?
Who, Georgia?
Yeah.
No.
Split 'em, didn't
Bama,
they?
yeah, we split them. Bama won the last time last year, and we won the time before we met at the national championship game.
Yeah.
So we split the last two, but Georgia, Kirby Smart's like 1-5 against Bama. Bama is his kryptonite.
Gotcha.
He came from there. He coached there. He was Nick Saban's defensive coordinator for a long time, and sadly, it is his kryptonite, which is one of the reasons.
Well, I remember last season you were just, we're going to lose, and then you came in the next Monday, and it was like you were bragging about how smart you are and how great your team is. And
Well, that's
I don't
what you
remember
do
who that
when you
was.
win.
Yes.
Well, that's true. That's true.
But the pessimism going into it was just unbelievable.
Hey, speaking of University of Georgia, and I don't want to talk sports too much, but I finally made my way back. Remember when I got kicked out of that particular location on Broadway for celebrating too much?
Yes.
Because they said I was being too loud. My team had just won. This was in 2022. My team had just won their first national championship in 40 years. And I was screaming for my team, and I was told at a bar on Broadway. That I was being too loud. I was being too loud. And I said, well, how about I never come back again? And they said, fine. And so I said I wasn't going to, but I had to go for a meeting. So I finally went back. They don't smoke in there anymore, which is nice.
They couldn't hear the bachelorette party over you. That was a problem.
I mean, it's a bar, and I'm celebrating a victory, and you're telling me I'm being too loud?
You can't be the only one in there that was celebrating, too. I mean, weren't there some other people whooping it up?
You know what I think they were? Bama fans.
Probably.
That's
you're
what it
probably
was.
right. That's probably 100% correct.
That's exactly right. They're just Bama fans all mad. All right, if you missed it over the weekend, the election's over. And this is what we're going to get into first on the Matt Murphy Show today. And I would love to hear from you all day long. Obviously, we open up the phone lines, and they're always open for you. We're like I don't what's some we're like Waffle House. We're always open on the phone line 615-737-9986. Waffle House on the phone lines. But I'm interested in your take on the fact that the election's over because that's what we're being told. I don't know if you noticed it or not, but according to the polling data presented by NBC News, they're a fair-minded organization. They believe in fair play. They everything's equitable for NBC News. They just call it like they see it. It's balls and strikes over there. They're not anti-Trump at all. At all. Well, they say that Kamala Harris now has a 5 percentage point national lead, which, by the way, means nothing. National polling means nothing, means less than nothing. But that's what they're saying, that it's all over, but the crying for Donald Trump. We have entered the phase of the election proceedings by which they attempt to make you depressed to the point that they suggest that they can depress voter turnout as a result, which is exactly what they're trying to do. We'll talk about it next. We'll take your telephone calls. Membersnutrition.com super text line always up and running. 615-737-9986. There's lots to get into on this Monday edition of the Matt Murphy Show. Bell is back. Oh, by the way, Headless Bell, before we go to break, welcome back. Episode 657 is entitled, for those interested in the title of this episode,
Back in the Saddle Again, and other greatest hits, and some politics. Matt Murphy Show.
Love it. Love it. Y'all wish Headless Bell a welcome back.
Yes,
He's always happy to be here. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hello, friends. Matt Murphy for USS, which stands for United Structural Systems. United Structural Systems focuses on really three aspects of the protection of your home. Number one, obviously, foundation. We've got to make sure that that foundation is rock solid. If there's any shifting or movement in the foundation, it could cause structural damage to your home. That could cause a situation where you lose value in the home or you have to have incredibly expensive repairs done to the home. We need to get to it before that occurs. Secondarily, we're talking about waterproofing. Waterproofing can affect the foundation of your home, or it can be a standalone issue on its own. The symptoms of waterproofing: standing water, obviously, musty or moldy smells, basement floors, cupping, your actual floors in your home cupping because of the moisture coming up through the floors, and then concrete leveling, making sure that the exterior of your home is nice and level and there's no settling on the exterior as well. USS handles all of these things, and they've been doing it for over 30 years. Over 25,000 satisfied customers they're available for you. Why not schedule a free consultation today at 615-488-7855, 488-7855 for our good friends at USS.
Police say DNA has changed the investigation into the disappearance of a missing Nashville woman. We've got that and more coming up at 12:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you much, Mr. Ken Weaver. Just at 27 after the hour on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Well, I hate it that Charlie hung up. Anytime I look up on my phone line screen, and it, Bell has the ability, when Bell screens your telephone calls, let me pull the curtain back just a little bit. 615-737-9986. He'll ask you what your name is, your first name. He'll ask you where you're calling from, because we like to tell folks where you're calling from. We've always done it that way. And then he'll ask you, just generally, what are you calling about?
What's your subject matter?
What's your subject matter? And I look up and I saw Charlie was calling in. I didn't note where Charlie was calling from, but it said, the subject line said, "You're an idiot."
Apparently, he was unhappy with the content of your rebuttal during the cross.
Okay.
And he wanted to express that, but apparently, I guess he lost the desire to express that.
Well, I mean, I'm all in favor of Charlie calling back. Just give us a buzz.
I knew you would be. That's why I put his exact words down so that you would take him first.
Look, disagreement goes to the front of the line. Exactly right. If you disagree with me, you go to the front of the line. There's no waiting on disagreements. Just tell Bell K that you think I'm a boob or an idiot or a moron or whatever. And right to the front of the line you go, because I love those types of engagements and appreciate getting them from time to time on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. In the meantime, Alex is up in Spring Hill. Alex is first up for the week. You are the first caller for what I expect to be a week of talk radio excellence, Alex. You could screw it up. Please don't.
I'll try not to. Can you hear me okay, Matt?
You sound great.
All right. Hey, so really calling this subject of the national polls. I saw the New York Times cinema this morning with Arizona, North Carolina, and Georgia, with Trump having a significant lead. And frankly, I think he'll take Pennsylvania, and the battleground electorally is going to decide this. I don't think Kamala has got this lead like everybody thinks, maybe in the popular vote, but that's not where the election's won, and would really love to hear your thoughts kind of a little deeper on this.
All right, so you just reset it for me one more time. So you don't buy into the polling? Is that what you said?
Well, I buy into some of the polling, but if you look at all the different ways that they're polled and how they're polled, sliding, how many Democrats versus Republicans versus independents. Now, I guess the bottom line is nationally, I really don't care. I care about battlegrounds. Mm-hmm. And so when you look at North Carolina and you look at Georgia and you look at Arizona, where New York Times Cinema, which is kind of a liberal type of polling and one of the most accurate of the last cycle, comes out and says Trump is ahead by 2 to 4 in the margin of error, like out of the margin of error, excuse me, then those states, the Sun Belt states, all he needs is a Pennsylvania, and he's done. And I think he will get Pennsylvania. You see the difference in voter registration from Democrats to Republicans cut almost in half, and they've got a pretty significant ground game in Pennsylvania.
Okay, I think you're dead on with regard to national polling versus battleground states or state-by-state polling. I'm going to get into it in just a moment, Alex. So you keep listening. During the Libertarian Lunchtime Hour, I'm going to break this down. It's exactly where I was going. There are mainstream media outlets that want to suggest that national polls matter. National polls do not matter in presidential elections because we do not have a national presidential election. I will die on this hill. 615-737-9986. It's time for Ken Weaver in the news.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories, and it looks like some fallen power lines may be causing some traffic issues in Bordeaux. We're talking about Ashland City Highway at Briley Parkway. NES repairing lines damaged in an early morning crash. Ramps are open, but they're occasionally stopping traffic there on the northbound Briley side to run these lines. Right now in Middle Tennessee, human remains found on a Wilson County property earlier this month have been positively identified as a missing Nashville woman. Police say DNA analysis confirms that the remains found on September 12th on Burnt House Road are those of 23-year-old Blanca Guadalupe Barrios Ariana. Ariana was reported missing by her mother on August 21st after she said she was heading to Murfreesboro Several law enforcement agencies in Wilson and Rutherford counties are being led by the TBI now in this investigation. Mideast wars are raging on, and the Associated Press says the Pentagon announced it's going to send more U.S. troops to the region amid escalating attacks between Hezbollah and Israel. It did not say how many troops or what their mission would be. Manhunt in Alabama. Officials searching for the gunman who opened fire on a crowd of people Saturday night, killing 4, wounding more than a dozen others. Stephanie Ramos is in Birmingham.
24-year-old Gabriel Islami recounting those terrifying moments as he recovers at home.
I get up and I kind of turn around and look back, and you just see a horror movie of a scene. I mean, there's bodies on the sidewalk. There's smoke from the guns covering the area.
Authorities say multiple suspects jumped out of a vehicle, opening fire on a group standing outside, and then ran off.
Appalachia High School students in Winder, Georgia will return to class this week for the first time since a deadly shooting earlier this month that claimed the lives of 2 students and 2 teachers. That section of school where the shooting occurred is going to stay closed. 14-year-old Colt Gray's been charged with murder in the case. His father also facing second-degree murder charges. That's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Hey, folks, it's Matt Murphy, and I want to spend a moment talking about an issue that's a little personal for you fellas out there in the audience. It's bedroom activity, right? At some point in half of our lives, if half the men listening to me, I should say, will experience some form of bedroom activity issues at some point in their lives. And I try to be delicate with this subject. There's no shame in this game. And I want you to get back to that performance level that you've enjoyed with your significant other all of your life. So I try to remind you of the people that can get you back to that level. And that is Tennessee Men's Clinic. But I understand that it's a very personal matter. But I also understand how dudes are, right? And you want to pretend it's not going on and pretend that it'll go away. Well, in a lot of ways, it will not go away. And did you know that there are simple ways to find out if it's your T level, for example? And if that's the case, there are multiple different ways to get that level back to where it has been over the course of your life in a way that's going to help your performance, whether it's at the gym, whether it's doing yard work or other physical activity, or yes, in the bedroom. So for whatever reason that you might want to make the call, go ahead and make the call to the best, to Tennessee Men's Clinic. Go to TennesseeMen'sClinic.com online to find out more information, or call 615-208-9090. 208-9090. Tell them Matt Murphy sent you to the Tennessee Men's Clinic. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I say a few controversial things from time to time on this radio program. I know. And believe it or not, I can get a little even more controversial on the social media platforms that I enjoy frequenting from time to time. You can join us on those social media platforms and see what I'm talking about. You can go over to the X Machine, formerly known as Twitter. I'm at Matt Murphy Show. That's at Matt Murphy Show. Enjoy that. Follow me, and you'll have a good time. I can promise you that.
You were going to get into the details of why the election's over, why it's just...
Thank you.
Well, I know why it is, and it's because the polls are telling us it's over.
Right.
And President Hillary Clinton confirmed this for me.
No, that's exactly right. President Clinton stepped out and explained to us that there would be another at least 4, if not 8 years of Democrat rule. They love to use that word, rule.
Wasn't she considered 98% a shoo-in by the polls up until election night?
Yes. Polling that is equitable, I think, favors Trump. I think there's a built-in 2% margin, but that's just me talking. If we're talking state by state, battleground state polls, I'll get into that in just a moment. I don't want to forget this. Go over to the X Machine and follow me at Matt Murphy Show, and you can see this lovely, robust debate that I'm having with individuals. I just made an observation. I'm not judging anybody. And I don't, I'm not even casting aspersions necessarily. I just made a comment and people are freaking out about it. And the comment was this. Kamala Harris has decided to skip the Al Smith dinner. I don't know if you know what the Al Smith dinner is. It is named after New York Governor Al Smith, who was the first, if not one of the first, Catholic officials who was elected statewide. He was elected as the governor of the state of New York. This predated John F. Kennedy, of course, being elected as president of the United States of America in 1960, becoming the first Catholic president. I am told, and some of you might remember this, but I am told that at the time it was a big deal that John F. Kennedy was a Catholic because people legitimately thought that he would take his marching orders from the Pope as opposed to from the Constitution. They said, well, the Pope will just call up Kennedy and tell him what to do, and he'll do it. And this was a genuine fear in 1960, or at least it was presented as a genuine reason as to not vote for John F. Kennedy. But the Al Smith dinner has been going on since that time. I mean, it's for a long time. And the last president to miss, or the last candidate for president to miss an Al Smith dinner was in 1984. I don't know the reasons. I just saw the date earlier today, and it surprised me. Kamala Harris has decided to skip that event. Now, I made a statement on social media that I don't think is that out there. After it was reported that she would skip the Catholic charity dinner, which breaks tradition dating back to at least to 1984. And before then, I don't know how long it's been going on. I said, Kamala Harris does not strike me as a person of faith. It's just an observation. I'm not even necessarily casting a spur. I cannot recall. I do this for a living, and I'm welcoming you to call me and tell me where I'm wrong or what I missed. I am certain that there are examples out there that I could find on social media platforms or on the intraweb. Okay? What I'm telling you is I could sit here and recall for you, just from my memory, moments where Bill Clinton, Barack Obama, Joe Biden, Donald Trump, George Bush, both of them. I mean, I can recall every president in my lifetime or presidential candidate in my lifetime, Hillary Clinton, making some reference to faith or God. I can't recall Kamala Harris doing that.
So you're saying she's a Satanist?
Exactly, Bell.
I can read between the lines.
Kamala Harris worships Beelzebub himself in a ritualistic fashion in the basement of the White House.
No, but what's her
candles
home called?
And the pentagrams and
what's
all.
the vice president's residence called?
And she lives
observatory,
at the National Naval Observatory.
Yeah,
or
so it's
like
probably in the basement there.
Yeah,
so she can get to it anytime she wants.
That's true. No, I'm not saying she doesn't go to church. I'm just making an observation that it does not surprise me that she would make the decision to skip a faith-based charity dinner that is somewhat of a political tradition, in as much as she does not strike me as a person that worships through any faith. She strikes me as a person, much like many Democrats, that worship government. I believe that Kamala Harris has a religion, and that religion is government. And I'm not trying to say anything that's out there. But liberals are kind of freaking out. Why are you saying that? What do you mean? What do you mean by that on my social media platform? Based on what? What are you saying that for? I'm just making an observation based on my wisdom through years of experience in doing this job. That's all. She does not seem to be a faithful person. And I cannot recall a moment where she talks about faith instructing her in her life. I believe she worships government. Now, back to I forget the caller's name, and I apologize for doing that. I should remember it. It was 15 minutes ago, for goodness sake, right before the news. But here it goes. So when we go to the polls, either before or on election day, because we go to the polls for weeks at a time now in many of these various states, which is ultimately the point that I'm about to make. We do not have a national election for president of the United States. We never have, and I pray God we never will. We have 50 separate state elections. I mean, you've got, other places where people are allowed to vote that aren't necessarily within a state. I mean, District of Columbia is a great example. So you have, but for the purposes of our conversation, we're going to say we have 50 separate state elections. We have lost this sense that the state grants the power to the federal government through the Constitution of the United States of America and through our unifying documents, but that the states were the ones giving out the power, not the other way around. That said, the states engage in 50 separate elections, and then through the Electoral College, they all come together and they kind of announce the results. Hey, everybody, in our state, in Missouri, Donald Trump won the election. Hey, everyone, in our state of Vermont, Kamala Harris came out on top. That's how it goes. And then you distribute the electoral votes accordingly. You count those up, and whoever gets to 270 is the president of the United States. And if you don't get to 270, then you got a House of Representatives that figures it all out.
You're literally going to the polls to tell your state how you want them to vote in the election.
Right. That's exactly right. And the electoral votes are made up of the number of representatives that you have in Congress plus 2, which represent your 2 senators. So in the case of the state of Tennessee, we have 9 Congress people, 2 senators, so we have 11 electoral votes. A state like California, which has 40 bajillion people, they have a lot more electoral votes. But you have a majority voting for a particular candidate, and that means that all of those electoral votes go for that candidate. Now, the purpose behind the Electoral College is simple, that it eases out the edges so that we don't have wolves voting sheep for dinner. And it guarantees that the states retain a certain level of autonomy and power over the federal government, which was something very important to our founding fathers, and not so important to liberal Democrats who are insistent that we destroy the Electoral College and go to a straight-up popular vote. They want a national election. We don't want that to happen. If we have a national election, California, Illinois, and New York will go up against Texas, Florida, and, cobble together a few. I mean, the most populated states will determine the outcome of the election it would be the top 6 or 7 states every cycle. So why would a presidential candidate come to the state, even the state of Tennessee, which we have about 9 million people, is that right? I had somebody over the weekend at an event that I was at last night tell me this, and I hadn't thought about it yet. There are more conservatives in California than there are people in Tennessee. We love to slam on California as this liberal enclave. They're all liberals out there. They're all hippies and socialists and, free love, whatever the hell they're doing out there. But in a state of 47, million people, there are more conservatives in the state of California than there are people in the state of Tennessee. But those folks have zero chance of affecting the difference of an outcome in their state. One of the reasons they're flocking here is because they want to feel more of a part of the process and more in a place that better represents their values. But the liberals do this just about every election cycle because conservatives / Republicans are already predisposed not to participate in some of these polls. Number two, they traditionally are more gun shy when it comes to answering specific questions about how they're going to vote. Number three, I do not believe that the media organizations frame the questions in such a way that lends itself to a fair analysis as to where people are in the presidential contest. So traditionally, Republicans poll a little worse in these election cycles than the Democrats do. We saw it in 2016. We saw it in 2020. Even though Joe Biden eventually came out on top. Hello, midnight votes. But the first thing you have to remember is that we do not have national elections. Now, this NBC poll that every media outlet seems to want to tout as a bell cow as to how the election is going to go 42 days from now, they want to declare to you that, oh, look at this. The momentum is up. Let me tell you something. I don't believe this as far as I can throw it. I don't believe that people are dumb enough that they had this strongly felt opinion about Kamala Harris 7 or 8 weeks ago, and now suddenly are liberals dumb enough that they're just going to forgive and forget the opinions that they had about Kamala Harris 7 weeks ago? There's a suggestion in these polls that she has swung her favorability amongst the Democrats by 18%, or by 18 points, which it's pretty much the same thing. By 18 points. I don't believe it for a moment. If the voters of this country are gullible enough and, very important, motivated enough that they just do what the powers that be tell them, I have to feel like they're honest on one end, and now either the polls are lying to us or the people have been duped by the media machine and the political campaign of the Democrats to convince you that Kamala wasn't ever what you thought she was, that she is cogent, she's smart, she's passionate, and she's ready to lead on day one. I don't believe that you can swing. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm the one that's naive. 51 minutes after the hour. But that's what the polls indicate. This national poll indicates that there's been between a 16 and 18-point swing in her favorability in 7 weeks. It is the only politician that has ever experienced that. You want to guess who it was? It's in modern times. It's in our lifetime. The only politician that has experienced that dramatic of a favorability swing at any point during their presidency was
George W. Bush.
George W. Bush is exactly right. In the aftermath of 9/11. America rallied around that attack against our country, and they supported their president of the United States. And they, took off their Democrat colors, they took off their partisan colors, and they supported our commander-in-chief. Makes a lot of sense. Makes 0 sense why people would lose their minds, be honest 7 weeks ago about how they felt about Kamala Harris, and now they're all in and how awesome she is. Except that the polls are cooked. Or the people are just that dumb. I don't know. People are gullible. You know gullible's not in the dictionary, don't you, Sammy? You know that, right? Have you looked it up? Look it up. 615-737-9986. Back in a moment. Okay, friends, if you need a second opinion on your heater, perhaps you've turned it on for the season just to see what's going on, or maybe you're getting ready to do so, and you need someone to let you know what's going on, or you need someone to maintenance the unit, which I would recommend. You need Jeff Eddy, an Efficient Heating and Cooling. He's not going to charge you an arm and a leg to do this. As a matter of fact, I love to talk about the $125 cap on all maintenance visits. If you have a residence, no matter how many heating units you might have at that residence, Jeff comes out to your home or one of his qualified technicians come out to your home, and they will clean and maintenance your heating unit, and they will never charge you more than $125, and oftentimes it's less than that, depending on the circumstances. But it's never more than $125. That's his guarantee to you. You need to get those things cleaned. It's one of the reasons that Jeff Eddy talks about it so much, that that can extend life of the unit. It's not just about making sure that the health of your family is taken care of, which is part of all of this. It's also about protecting that heater, protecting that AC. And in this case, we need to get those heaters checked for the fall and winter season. EfficientHVAC.net. That's EfficientHVAC.net, or call 615-784-4424, 784-4424 for Efficient.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got a pretty big traffic problem developing right now here downtown. It is going to be 24 eastbound at Shelby Avenue. That's going to be the East Loop. So the eastbound loop, the East Loop, eastbound downtown, you got the left lane blocked by a crash. We also have one on Gallatin Road near Conference Drive in Goodlettsville. That's going to be backing things up. We do have a potential for storms today. We'll tell you about that during the full forecast in 5 minutes. Right now, we're told more U.S. troops are going to be on the move. Just as President Biden meets with the leader of the UAE, President Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan. ABC News White House correspondent Karen Travers has details about their conversation.
President Biden said he and President Mohammed would discuss the ongoing efforts to end the war in Gaza. He also said he had been briefed on the latest developments between Israel and Lebanon. Dozens of Israeli warplanes struck more than 800 targets in southern Lebanon Monday morning, according to the Israel Defense Forces.
My team is in constant contact with their counterparts, and we're working to de-escalate in a way that allows people to return to their homes safely.
Now, the Associated Press reports the Pentagon announced this morning it's sending additional U.S. forces to the Middle East amid this rising tension between Israel and Hezbollah. Israel has warned people in Lebanon living near Hezbollah military sites to get to safety, and the U.S. Embassy telling U.S. citizens to leave the country. New details about the man suspected of trying to assassinate former President Trump earlier this month. Prosecutors say the suspect had a list of places Trump could be, and he visited that golf course several times in the month before his arrest. Here's Alex Mallon.
The FBI says that they were contacted by a witness 3 days after the suspect was arrested, who said that several months prior to that arrest, they had received a box that included things like ammunition, metal pipes, and then a host of letters, including this letter that basically he apologizes for failing in an assassination attempt on Donald Trump.
Got new developments in a missing persons case here in Middle Tennessee. Channel 4 says police have identified human remains found on a Wilson County property 2 weeks ago as 23-year-old Blanca Ariana. They say they used DNA on the remains found on Burnt House Road on September 12th. Ariana was last seen in August telling her mother she was going to Murfreesboro. The FBI has new details about the rate of violent crime here in the U.S. Brian Clark says it claims a significant decrease in one category.
Murders decreased by 11.6% last year. It's a drop of more than 17% since 2021. The FBI says last year's decrease was the largest single-year drop on record. Violent crime in total was down by 3%. That includes rape, where figures dropped by 9.4%. There was a double-digit increase in motor vehicle theft, up 12.6%.
Now, here in Nashville, Metro Police reported data in July they claimed showed most violent crimes in Nashville and Davidson County were down from last year, while all categories of property crime were on the rise. So the data Metro Police put out showed a total of 4,456 violent crimes reported by June 29th, 2023. 4,154 by June 29th this year. That's 302 fewer violent crimes reported between the first half of this year compared to last. That's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
You know, I was talking with Holly and David of Savory Spice here recently, and they have generously offered to give us a lot of Savory Spice and Easy products to give away. And I don't know if we'll have them at the October 1st debate watch party, at the vice presidential debate watch party, but I know for a fact we'll have them at election night. And I'm very excited about this because a lot of people have taken me up on my suggestion that you go over to Savory Spice and you grab these Spice and Easy. Here's the bottom line. There's a lot of different recipes, a lot of different types of things they're doing. They're doing dips, and they're doing sauces, and they're doing soups, and they're doing like a Sunday pot roast, for example. It was the first one that we selected. So you take the Spice and Easy Savory Spice Sunday pot roast. It has all of the spices you need. It tells you exactly what to buy at the grocery store. It tells you how to cook it in the crock pot, for example, in this example. And then off you go, and you cook it, and it's delicious, and you don't have to worry about what to put in it, this flavoring, that flavoring. It makes it, wait for it, spice and easy. At Savory Spice, they have all the spices that you can possibly imagine at Savory Spice in 2 locations for you to pick them up. One is on Charlotte Pike at L&L Market. The other is off the square in Franklin. Tell them Matt Murphy sent you to the one and only Savory Spice. It is Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Matt Murphy, and this is hour number 2 of the Matt Murphy Show, a Monday edition in progress. Thank you for being with us. It is September 23. It's today. By the way, Bel K, welcome back once again. Glad to have you back behind the glass, making sure that everything that comes out of our speakers sounds as good as humanly possible. You have you're on your best behavior because you have trainee Sammy in studio with you. Learning to turn the knobs and do the job and all of those sorts of things.
See, if I do something wrong and you're here, you just yell at me. If I do something wrong when she's in here, she goes and tells new suit.
Is it wrong of me that I thought she was wearing a shirt with 2 skeleton middle fingers on it?
No, that's about your speed.
Okay. What are those skeleton fingers doing?
What are those skeleton fingers, Sammy?
Rock hands.
Oh, rock hand.
That's the devil's business.
Yeah,
that's
there you go.
Hook 'em horns.
That's why Kamala uses it.
Yeah, sure, maybe. I don't know. So there's Sammy in the other room. There's Bell in the other room. Of course, Ken Weaver's back in the newsroom. You just heard from him, and you'll hear from him every half an hour or when news breaks. Discussing the election. 42 days to go, plus a few hours to go before Election Day is upon us. Although there are already people voting, and I have to remind you of that because we have to embrace. Look, if I were king for the day, we would not have any of this early voting nonsense because that's what I think it is. I think in the modern era, you give people a 72-hour window. You set that window between Sunday and Tuesday. That's fine, or hell, Friday and to Sunday. I don't care what 72 hours you put it in, but you set a window. It is the only national restriction that I would support regarding voting rights. Well, I'd take it back. 2. 1, show ID. Number 2, 72-hour window. Outside of that, the states can decide for themselves what manner they choose in order to vote. Sadly, we have some states that vote for 45-day periods of time. Others, a lot of states do the 30-day period of time. And you have junk garbage polling that has started to trickle out designed to attempt to depress you, which is what I believe this NBC national poll ultimately is. I would say this about the voting. As we were discussing it last hour, just put a cap on it this hour and move on to other things. Do not complain on November 6th if you see the Democrat. And I don't predict this will be the case. I wouldn't suggest that I was able to make a prediction 42 days out. But now is the time for Republican leaders to put out an all call for volunteers to make sure that we have eyeballs on the polls. Now is the time to raise awareness. 42 days out. Now is the time to talk about Georgia. Now is the time to talk about Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Now is the time to talk about Madison, Wisconsin. Now is the time to talk about Michigan. Not later. As much conversation as we had post-2020 about drop-off boxes and about ballot harvesting and about collection efforts and about, curtains being drawn and boxes being pulled out from under desks. Y'all remember the conversation. I remember the conversation too. As frustrating as that was, it is more so frustrating that we don't clearly and plainly see this potentially coming and do something about it. Now is the time for all Republicans in the state of Tennessee to ask themselves, I'm not wagging my finger at any of you. You have busy lives and you're the most informed and engaged listening audience on planet Earth. But I am putting out an all call. Before this happens again, we have to do everything in our power to make sure that regardless of who wins the election in 2024, that we have faith in the process. If we go through another 2020, I don't know what's going to happen to America. And I'll say this, as long as we have faith in the process, if by some miracle the Democrats convince enough stupid people to get off their butts, off their couches, and go and vote for Kamala Harris, then fine. If I look around our country and I believe in the process that happened and I believe that it happened on the up and up, I can stomach, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I can stomach the idea of stupid people voting better than I can a rigged system by which the Democrats have decided that they can cheat their way to victory with impunity. But I fear, I was at a great event last night, and I don't want to politicize the event by naming it in this segment. I'll talk about that at a later time. It was a wonderful event with some great, great friends. I'll say it's J.K. and Erica Brister and the owners of U.S. Pest, who, I absolutely love what they do from a business perspective. But Erica also does she has a group that she calls the Tennessee Honey Collective, and she has a lot of bees on their property, and we went to dinner. Anyway, it was a great time. But I was talking with a smaller group, just interacting with all of the folks there, and we were discussing the election and how my belief is simple, that this will come down to roughly 5 states, and some of that might be a little bit interchangeable because I frankly did not put North Carolina in this analysis, and now I have to. I put North Carolina in the analysis now because North Carolina is in play, but I believe the election will come down to 5 swing states and about 150,000 votes. I've been saying this for months. Georgia, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Arizona, 150,000 votes split amongst those states. And if Donald Trump wins Georgia and Pennsylvania, it's pretty much over. But you have to win by margins greater than the ability to cheat. You understand what I mean? You have to win in margins and in numbers greater than any political opposition's ability to put their thumb on the system. I still have faith in this system, but I don't know that I could say that unless and until I believe in the legitimacy of the outcome in 2024. But in order for me to believe in that, we have to have good people with eyeballs on the process. We have to have people immersed in the process in Atlanta and in Philadelphia and in Pittsburgh, in Madison, Wisconsin, in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, in Detroit. I mean, all of these places where all of this vote counting occurs in the dark of night, we need to make sure that we have people in place that are ready, willing, and able to flag it and say, no, this is wrong or this is right. This is going the right way. This is going the wrong way. What are you doing here? Simply because you're dealing with Democrat elected officials in probate offices and in the offices of secretaries of state does not mean that we ought not to be allowed to, and we are, have eyeballs on the process to make sure the process is legitimate. Now is the time to watch the beginnings of these votes. Now's the time to prepare to be poll watchers. Now's the time to put in the effort. And yes, we need to do that right here in the state of Tennessee. Now, That doesn't mean that we necessarily have to watch the polls in the same fashion in Tennessee that I would suggest you need to watch in Georgia, or you need to watch in Pennsylvania or Michigan or some of those other battleground states. But we should be asking ourselves, do we need to go? Do we need to volunteer? Do we need to put in the effort to make sure that our election process is still a legitimate process? I cannot believe that I'm saying this in the United States of America. But we, sadly, while we found ourselves to be an exceptional country for so many years, there have been factors and there have been figures that have diminished that exceptionalism to the point that they have caused fractures in our trust and in our faith in our elected system. And with that when that begins, that fracture will only get bigger unless we repair it and we regain the trust of the American people. I mean, I'll give you a great example. And, Jimmy, I'm coming to you in just a moment. But right now it's Glenn in Franklin, and it says that Glenn says the 2020 election was stolen. Glenn has no faith in the process. Do you, Glenn?
No, sir. I watched every second after that up through February or April. All the experts, whether it's communication, electronics, paper phone. My dad was a mailman, so I know about folded paper or whatever. And you could tell the difference between a piece of paper that's folded and one that's not, especially under even a magnifying glass. So to me, it was stolen. And is there anything going on right now with the Republican Party to make sure that it doesn't get stolen again? Are they actually, I mean, you've been commenting about that, and I appreciate you saying that and telling people, get off their fat duffs and go do something.
Well, I mean, I agree with you, and it's kind of what I'm saying, Glenn, is that we've got to rally ourselves around a common cause, and that goal is to make sure that our election processes. I mean, I understand that we have a tendency to give up on Philly, for example, because Philly's going to vote blue, or give up on Memphis because Memphis will vote blue. But don't give up to the point that we don't have people in place making sure that the count and the process goes as it should, and there's no cheating going on.
Exactly. I have to agree 110% upon that. And hopefully, God willing, and I think God's in this thing, after saving President Trump twice, I think God's hand is in this whole thing. He wants, I believe, this country to be rectified, saved, and put back in the right order. And I think he's put his hand and protection over Trump. And everybody out there, pray for him because he needs our prayers.
Well, I love it, and thank you, Glenn, for the call. And I wouldn't take anything away from what Glenn said except to say this. The old saying goes, it's the second time that I've mentioned this saying in as many shows as I've done because I mentioned it Friday afternoon. The old saying, trust in God, but lock your car. Right? So I understand that prayers are important, but prayers without action might be a little bit futile. I need you to do more than just pray about it. I mean, if you believe the future of this country rests not solely, but directly with the results of this presidential election, as so many people do, sure, the state of Tennessee is virtually guaranteed to go red. But do you know anybody in Georgia? Do you know anybody in Pittsburgh? Do you know anybody in Philly? Do you know anybody in Michigan? Do you know anybody in Arizona? Do you know anybody in North Carolina? Do you know anybody in Virginia? Are you talking to them? Are you talking to them in a positive way and encouraging them that no matter what they think about the guy, please think about the country more? I cannot tell you. I was listening. We did this experiment last Friday afternoon. And I was listening this morning as I was coming into Chris Hand, and he was talking to a left-of-center guy. And look, I love talking to you folks that are left-of-center Democrats or Harris supporters. And I challenged my audience, hey, just call me and tell me why you support Kamala Harris. But here's the thing, don't bring up Donald Trump. And I got one call. And the guy said, well, it's the abortion issue. Okay, that's fine. That's legitimate. That's an issue. And you believe in, abortion, apparently, until birth or whatever, and you don't like where Trump is on it, that it should be a state issue or whatnot. I mean, whatever. We can have that discussion. One call. For the vast majority of people that support Kamala Harris, they seem to hate Donald Trump. Well, we need to talk to those people in a positive way and explain to them that this isn't about Donald Trump. This is about your children's America in 2028 and 2032. It's about more than just that. When we return, the Teamsters won't endorse Kamala Harris, or Trump for that matter. They should have endorsed Trump, but they couldn't manage to pull the trigger, so to speak. But the IRS sure as hell figured out who they want to be the next president of the United States. I'll tell you about that. Plus, the latest update on the second assassination attempt against Donald Trump. That suspect will remain in jail, according to a judge that just made that decision moments ago. We'll tell you all of the details coming up. Plus, Mr. Jimmy will get to your call and yours as well. 615-737-9986. It's 20 after the hour on Super Talk. I absolutely love the Glock Store. I love everything they do for our community. I love their facility. I love the fact that they have, like, they've got their retail space. They've got their shooting rooms. They've got their training division. They've got the manufacturing division. They've got the shipping department. I mean, they do it all at the Glock Store because they're so good at what they do. They build their own performance parts right in-house. They ship them all over the United States of America. But you have this ability to go right there and see them with your own eyes before you buy. They're the best place to compete. They've got great shooting opportunities for you. Competitions are open on a monthly basis. They're a great place to shoot and to learn with a private trainer in a private room. And they're a great place to party. I mean, the Glock Store has VIP rooms. Included in that VIP room will be a training room with an instructor, so you can do some training sessions while you party at the Glock Store. The parties include that VIP room, full kitchen, I mentioned that, dedicated shooting room, instructors, and shooting activities designed for every level. Find out more about these parties that you could utilize for anniversaries, retirements, different types of celebrations, birthdays, of course, at the Glock Store. Go to glockstore.com, or better yet, give them a call at 615-682-6565, 682-6565 for the Glock Store.
Got a traffic problem. Eastbound East Loop downtown. The left lane is blocked by a crash there at Shelby Avenue. And more U.S. troops on the move. We'll tell you about it at 1:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you much, Mr. Ken Weaver. We've got that coming up in about 5 minutes or thereabouts. Also, this breaking news, the judge in the second assassination attempt case down in Florida says that the man who authorities claim sat in the trees along hole number 6 on Trump International Golf Course, where Donald Trump was golfing earlier this month in West Palm Beach, wrote a letter stating that he was going to attempt to assassinate the president of the former president of the United States. Shortly after the filing in federal court, a magistrate ordered Ryan Wesley Ruth or Ralph. I've heard it both ways. I'm going with Ruth. Or I don't know. I don't know which to go with. I'll go whichever one Ken goes with. To remain detained pending further proceedings. Witness told investigators that the individual dropped off a box at the home or at his home months earlier, which contained, quote, ammunition, a metal pipe, miscellaneous building materials, tools, 4 phones, and various letters. After learning of the apparent assassination attempt, the witness who received the box opened the box. No word on who that is, at least as far as I can tell. One letter addressed to the world said, quote, this is an assassination attempt on Donald Trump, but I failed you. I tried my best and gave it all the gumption I could muster. It is up to you now to finish the job. I will offer $150,000 to whomever can complete the job. The letter went on to say that Trump ended relations with Iran like a child, and now the Middle East has unraveled. I find the weight of the evidence against the defendant strong, said Judge Ryan McCabe at the end of the nearly 3-hour hearing, which concluded just moments ago. There you go. Mr. Jimmy is next up in Shelbyville. Hey, Mr. Jimmy, how are you?
Yeah. How am I? Well, let's see. I'm getting older by the minute, younger by the day.
Good for you, Mr. Jimmy.
How are you doing, Matt?
I'm wonderful. Thank you for asking me. I'm doing well on this Monday, having a good time.
Yeah, I wanted to talk to you about football. Back in the middle 50s, I went to a ball game at Crump Stadium in Memphis. I think I paid $1.75 for entrance to get in Crump. There was 2 football players. Let's see, 2 football teams. There was Ole Miss and Memphis State Bulldogs. For Ole Miss was Archie Manning, and for Memphis State was James Earl Wright was the quarterback, and he was from Oxford, Mississippi. And your buddy was up in the booth. Wink Martindale. He was working for WMPS or WREC, Memphis radio stations. He was broadcasting. We were giving him hell. He was giving us hell.
Wink Martindale, like Tic-Tac-Doe Wink Martindale, the game show host Wink Martindale?
Yeah.
Wow.
And the world turns,
the
little people fell off. He also worked.
Mr. Jimmy, I first and foremost, I hope that I get to live the life that you have lived, and for as long as you have been around. And number 2, I hope that I have the memory, if I'm around, that you have to remember all these wonderful times and wonderful experiences, particularly the ones that you had in Memphis back in the day when Memphis was a city that the state could be proud of.
Yeah, well, I let's see. I was a Chickasaw buddy back then to the Memphis Chicks was a field team for St. Louis Cardinals. I think that's where my buddy that I went to school with, Tim McCarver, started his ball with the Memphis Chicks. a Chickasaw buddy could get in half price at Rustwood Park there in Memphis for 50 cents, and then I think everybody else had to pay $1.
Man, oh man, hey, you want me to you might want me to remind you what those ticket prices for the Bama Georgia game are this weekend, Mr. Jimmy? Did you hear me tell you?
Yeah, $900
for a lower bowl for 40-yard lines on the lower bowl, $950.
Well, you could go anywhere for that Ole Miss game in Crump Stadium for $1.75.
Wow, that's back in the day. Back in the good old days, as they say, Mr. Jimmy, I got to scoot. God bless you. I love you, and you know how much I appreciate you calling me and telling us about some of the old times. It's 1:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Again, drivers, beware. You got that slowdown on the East Loop downtown that's going eastbound. You got the left lane blocked by a crash there. That's 24 eastbound right there at Shelby Avenue. Got the full forecast in 5 minutes. Right now, President Biden saying he's been briefed on latest developments between Israel and Hezbollah in Lebanon and is in constant contact with their counterparts, working to de-escalate. At the same time, the Associated Press reports the Pentagon announced today it's sending additional U.S. forces to the region. And new details about the man suspected of trying to assassinate former President Trump earlier this month, as a judge has just ordered Ryan Routh will stay in jail until his trial. Alex Mallon reports the FBI says they were contacted by a witness 3 days after Routh was arrested, who said that several months prior to that arrest, they had received a box that included things like ammunition, metal pipes, then a host of letters, including one in particular.
Basically, he apologizes for failing in an assassination attempt on Donald Trump. That obviously raises a host of questions, specifically when that exact letter was written. And of course, now that we have this information that cell phone data shows that he also visited Mar-a-Lago and the golf course multiple times, was he just scoping out? Was he potentially with that rifle? Had he failed actually previously in carrying out an assassination attempt on Donald Trump? This just raises a whole host of questions.
Later today in Nashville, Mayor Freddie O'Connell takes part in a panel discussion about Vision Zero. That's the effort to eliminate deadly car wrecks. Channel 4's Joylyn Bukovac says there'll be a short documentary that shows the impact on 5 families who have lost loved ones.
And those 5 families are not the only ones who have been affected. According to Metro, about 93 people die each year because of car accidents in Nashville. And that's why the city is continuing to work to make dangerous roads safer through the Vision Zero initiative. The city has already made big moves like lowering speed limits and planning new crosswalks on dangerous roads like Dickerson Pike. They're also working on plans for Nolensville and Gallatin Pike as well. Construction is expected to begin next year.
So that event tonight starts at 5:30 at the Luby Center Theater on Rosa Parks Boulevard. And that's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Nashville Safe House has now celebrated over 30 years in business in Nashville, Tennessee. Throughout Middle Tennessee, really throughout the state and throughout the Southeast, they are the best in the business at providing you an opportunity to secure your valuables or the things that keep you safe from theft or from fire through a home security system, often known as a safe, from Nashville Safe House. There's no better way to secure your valuables than to purchase a quality safe from Nashville Safe House. They have right around 200 safes on display. That's on display. They have around 400 more in their warehouse. So Literally, they have a safe for everyone. I mean, they just do. They have the size and the shape you're looking for. They have the fire rating you're looking for and the price point for every budget. Whether it's Browning, Fort Knox, Champion, Rhino, or any other safe brand, they have them. They have vault doors as well, tornado shelters. It's what they do at Nashville Safe House. Go and see Mark and his team at Nashville Safe House and allow him to provide you with an opportunity to get some safety in your home through a safe at Nashville Safe House. And remember, gun safes are sales tax free at Nashville Safe House. Go to NashvilleSafeHouse.com or across the street from City Cemetery on 4th Avenue South. Tell them Matt Murphy sent you to Nashville Safe House. If you ever wanted to call a talk radio show and be treated nicely by the phone screener, now's the time to do it because I believe Sammy is screening the telephone calls and not the mean-spirited.
Not yet, I'm still doing it.
The mean-spirited headless belt. Well, let her screen. I mean, she knows how to answer a phone.
Hey, it's her first day. She's watching, and then she'll start getting into things tomorrow.
So you're telling me if the phone rings, she's over there beside it, she won't answer it? You won't let her?
Yeah, correct. I won't let her.
What, are you mansplaining it to her in there? What are you doing in there?
I'm just telling her how it is. Just like, what's up? I mean, if you'd like to come train her, you're more than welcome, sir. I mean, if you can do the show at the same time.
I think I could.
No, I don't know about that.
Well.
You don't split your attention very well.
What? I'm sorry. I was reading something on the text line. I didn't hear what you said. 615-737-9986. Jeremiah has written in, and he's telling me that that the point of voting for Kamala Harris is to keep the gas prices low and the crime rates low. He said low gas, and I believe Jeremiah is the same one that I heard on Hand Show earlier. I told him to call me. He said, "Oh, I've tried to call twice before, but the producer says that you can only be on air once a day." That is not true. It's not true. It's once per show. We ask you, I mean, there are very, very few rules on the Matt Murphy Show. Number one, call us only once per day. Number two, don't be boring. Number three, don't read to me. And if you don't understand why you shouldn't read to me, then refer back to rule number two, which is don't be boring. Because as soon as you start getting boring, then you're endangering my livelihood. And I can't have that. But, Jeremiah, regardless of whether you call or not, I want to respond to this concept. Low gasoline prices. Are low gasoline prices necessarily a sign of a good economy or a bad economy? Or neither? I would make a suggestion to you, Jeremiah, that low gasoline prices are a result of some basic economic forces. And when supply remains relatively consistent and demand goes down, what happens to the price of any product? Of any product. So I would suggest that we've not increased supply. And by the way, 3597 says gasoline prices low, 4 question marks. Gasoline prices are lower than they have been. They are not where they were during the Trump administration, but they're as low as they've been, as far as I can remember, during the Biden administration. Or should I say the Biden-Harris administration. Those gasoline prices are low for all the wrong reasons, because worker productivity is down. People have stopped trying to look for a job. The crime rates are low because certain cities have made decisions not to turn in their crime rates to the FBI. And some of those crime rates that are being turned into the FBI are a result of soft prosecution within those given cities, because DAs are not prosecuting even violent criminal activities in certain cities any longer. So, but I mean, you know what? You can't lie your way out of the grocery store. You can't lie your way out of what people see and feel. I mean, tell the city of Birmingham that crime rates are down. In the city of Birmingham, if you did not hear, there was a shooting over the weekend that led to, I had the story pulled up a moment ago, that led to 4 people being killed, 17 people being wounded. It was a targeted hit in the city of Birmingham, Alabama, a city that I formerly called home. And the mayor's office, believe it or not, here it is. Here's the story. The mayor, Randall Woodfin, said that the mass shooting that left 4 dead and 17 injured Saturday night has led for him to call for a renewal on a ban on Glock switches. Work with me here. I know many of you already know the answer to this, but let's feed these baby birds that maybe don't. Switches or conversion kits are aftermarket items that are used on handguns like Glocks that can potentially allow them to fire in a fully automatic fashion with one continuous pull of the trigger. So according to Woodfin and others at the scene, some of the police department at the Birmingham Police Department, the number of casualties and bullets found at the scene at 5 Points South, which is a pretty big, that's a popular area for younger, UAB is nearby, University of Alabama, Birmingham. And so a lot of the students go into that area. There's bars and whatnot down there. There's a pool hall down on 5 Points South. According to Birmingham Mayor Randall Woodfin, he believes a switch or a conversion kit was used. During a press conference yesterday, Woodfin said he wanted to work with the state to ban such devices and give police the tools that they need to get killers off the street, regardless of what people think about the Second Amendment. Woodfin admitted that Birmingham was, quote, the tip of the spear of a gun violence epidemic. You listening there, Jeremiah? A gun violence epidemic in America. But he said the problem is solvable. Quote, now, some would say I'm getting too political, but I'm a politician, so I need to speak the truth and publicly share my thoughts and what I'm feeling so people can understand what's at stake here. Woodfin referenced the federal assault weapons ban enacted in 1994 and in existence from 94 to 04, said gun violence was at an all-time low while it was in place. Switches and conversion kits, he's demanding that the state of Alabama make these illegal. Switches and conversion kits are illegal under federal law. And when Woodfin was asked about that, he said, well, not enough resources are allocated to the enforcement of their existence. Well, wait a minute. If they're illegal and if making something illegal automatically means that a criminal's not going to utilize that for criminal type of crap, then how in the world would you suggest that a conversion kit was used in this case? Because they're already illegal. Oh, by the way, murder's illegal, Randall. Why did they murder someone in the beginning? I mean, why in the world would we have these murders? Did they not know that murder was illegal? Because if making something illegal magically means that it's not going to happen anymore. Woodfin continued, I don't have any interest in this whole debate about Second Amendment rights. I'm sure you don't. We don't have any interest in people wanting to protect their homes, militia, whatever else you want to say. There's a certain element in this city, there's an element in this community who are too comfortable riding around with semi-automatic weapons, automatic weapons, conversions, switches, and everything else, whose only intent, hell-bent intent, is to harm people, shoot people, kill people. So he's willing to go there when it comes to the guns, but not go there when it comes to the communities that are involved in all of this. How about you go to where the goats can graze on it, Randall, and talk about the communities that we're discussing and why it is these fatherless families where young people are growing up without parental guidance, where mothers are either unwilling or overwhelmed in a way to actually raise their kids in a fashion where they know that it isn't permissible in a civilized society to go out shooting up joints because you've been dissed in some form or fashion. What about the epidemic of fatherlessness in the inner city, Randall? I mean, I understand that it behooves you in your effort to run as a gubernatorial candidate in the next governor's election in the state of Alabama, which he will, by the way. He'll run as a Democrat. He'll get his brains beaten in by Will Ainsworth, who's currently the lieutenant governor, who'll probably be the next governor of the state of Alabama. But let's not beat around the bush. Hearts and minds have to be changed, and that starts in homes. And when these homes have no fathers in them, no parental figures, no discipline within the homes, no respect for authority within the homes, what do you expect to get out of these homes? According to State Representative Philip Insler of Montgomery and Montgomery Mayor Stephen Reed, whose city has also been plagued by gun violence, they also support the idea of banning Glock switches. Once again, Glock switches are already, conversion to fully automatic pistols that's already illegal. But that doesn't start these folks. So they don't want to address the true causal factors. According to House Minority Leader Anthony Daniels of Huntsville, we must take immediate and meaningful actions like banning Glock switches and repealing the horrific permitless concealed carry law in order to keep weapons from those who should never have had them in the first place. This isn't a culture war issue over the right to own a gun. It's about the safety of everyone. Oh, of course it is. If Democrats had their way, you would not have a Second Amendment to begin with. 615-737-9986. Anyway, that's what's going on just to the south of us. So if you want to look at low crime rates, look no further than the city of Nashville, the city of Memphis, or our neighbor to the south, Birmingham, Alabama, and their crime epidemic and their inability to solve it because they won't address it. They won't address the true causal factors. They want to talk about guns, 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 guns. They don't want to talk about fatherless families and kids growing up in the inner city looking up to drug dealers and thugs on the street as opposed to looking up to the type of figures that might lead them down a path where they're a productive member of society and they don't become a lawless thug themselves. And by the way, before y'all come at me, I have no idea what color these people are. So it ain't a color thing because I don't know. I don't know what color they are. It doesn't matter what color they are. It matters how they're brought up. 615-737-9986. I'm going to say that this is not denial, that it's Daniel. That's what I'm going to say. It looked kind of like denial, but I'm going with Daniel in Tullahoma. Hey, Daniel, how are you?
Hey, Matt, how you doing?
I'm great.
When it comes to the Second Amendment, these idiots, and I'm including any and all politicians that do not understand the Second Amendment, it says shall not infringe. If you violate that, actually anything repugnant to the Constitution is null and void. You also have the Dick Act of whatever year, I can't remember it. But again, we're going to have to reprogram these politicians, and we're going to have to reprogram these people that Constitution is absolute, shall not infringe. And if you violate that, you go against it, get your ass out.
It's an interesting thing. We talk about it on occasion on Fridays during our visits with Jay St. Clair. The word no doesn't mean no, sadly. And we talked about this with regard to the First Amendment last week. The First Amendment of the Constitution, I understand the Second Amendment says, I think I can remember this off the top of my head, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of the free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. I think that's basically right for the Second Amendment. The First Amendment is Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. I know I'm showing off. Congress shall make no law abridging the freedom of speech. So, Daniel, I would ask you, do we make laws abridging the freedom of speech? Of course we do. So no doesn't mean no when it comes to the Constitution of the United States. Do we make laws abridging your ability to own a suitcase nuke? We do. We do. I'll address this in just a moment. And yes, 8695, he did say the Dick Act. I don't know what that is in the context of, I need to look it up. I hope I'm not coming back on the other side of the break apologizing to everyone. It's the Matt Murphy Show on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hello, friends. It's Matt Murphy, and I want to talk to you for a moment about Brentwood Hearing Center and the incredible update that these guys have for you. Their doctors of audiology have always been committed to providing patients with the most recent hearing device technology, and their leadership team has recently announced the launch of a revolutionary hearing aid called the Phonak Sphere. It's dedicated to helping patients hear well in situations where there is extensive background noise, which is a lot of situations, right? Whether it's a ball game or at a dinner party, wherever you might be, maybe a sporting event, a cocktail party, a noisy restaurant, the computer chip completely dedicates itself to addressing speech in noise, and the Phonak Sphere can help you when it's time for that next party or event that you have difficulty hearing at. So if you give Brentwood Hearing a call, they can schedule an appointment for you. I certainly encourage you to do this. 615-377-0420, 377-0420, or visit them online at BrentwoodHearingCenter.com. That's BrentwoodHearingCenter.com. Brentwood Hearing Center. Better hearing for a better life.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Still got some slowdown there on the East Loop, eastbound downtown, where that crash was. Police was working. It was 24 eastbound right there at Shelby Avenue. Cars are moving, but slowly. Looks like they may have gotten that crash out of the way, so things should be improving here shortly. Looks like we have the potential for some storms starting today. We'll give you the full forecast in 5 minutes. And the Pentagon has announced today it's sending additional U.S. troops to the Middle East region. At the same time, at the White House, where President Biden is hosting the United Arab Emirates president, Biden says he's up to date on the increasing tension between Israel and Hezbollah terrorists in Lebanon.
I've been briefed on the latest developments in Israel and Lebanon. My team is in constant contact with their counterparts, and we're working to de-escalate in a way that allows people to return to their homes safely.
So earlier today, the Associated Press said the Pentagon press secretary, Major General Pat Ryder, did not reveal how many additional U.S. troops or what the mission would be in the Mideast region. U.S. currently has about 40,000 troops there. The U.S. Embassy on Saturday urged U.S. citizens to leave Lebanon. New details about the man suspected of trying to assassinate former President Trump last week. A judge today ruling 58-year-old Ryan Routh will stay in jail until his trial. ABC News legal contributor Brian Buckmeyer on whether the new evidence in a letter allegedly written by Routh apologizing for failing to kill Trump is enough to charge the suspect with an attempted assassination.
When you think of the concept of attempt, it's two parts. It's intent with substantial step. The intent is coming from this letter. All the information we're getting it very clear what his intent was. But when it comes to attempt, the substantial step is probably one that's going to be argued. And so the question becomes did he take a substantial step in purchasing the firearm, posting up for 12 hours, sitting there when Donald Trump was not in view? He did not get a clear shot. He did not take a shot. I think that's where it's going to come down to say that wasn't an attempt.
Here in Nashville, where about 93 people die in crashes involving vehicles every year, Mayor Freddie O'Connell and other officials are preparing to hear from the public at a panel discussion on Vision Zero, ways to prevent deadly crashes. That's going to be later today. Channel 4 says tonight's discussion will include a short documentary on 5 families who've lost their loved ones.
I have met some of the families that have either lost loved ones or had experiences with very serious injuries. And so I think Vision Zero is a critical project. I'm very glad that Nashville is committed to it.
So after this short documentary, the panel wants your input. This starts this afternoon at 5:30 at the Luby Center Theater on Rosa Parks Boulevard. And the White House wants 50% of the new vehicle market to be electric by 2030. Mike Dabusky says it's rolling out a new fund to help hit that target.
The Drive Forward Fund is aimed at automotive suppliers, the companies that build car parts. Its goal is to raise $1 billion from institutional investors and from Small Business Administration loans. Monroe Capital, the asset management firm that the White House has tapped to handle the new fund, says the automotive supply chain accounts for 5% of U.S. GDP. It all comes as demand for EVs has leveled off in recent months.
That is the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Hey, friends, it's Matt Murphy, and let's talk about your investment portfolio for just a moment. I know that's kind of a personal subject, right? I want to talk to you about Paul Winkler and everything that he brings to the table when it comes to investment. The first thing is the most important thing, and that is an education. Paul Winkler understands that you should understand exactly what you're doing and why you're doing it, and most information that you get from investment people comes from people trying to sell certain investment products, and sadly, they're more interested in serving those product lines than they are serving their customers. That is you. You will never find this with Paul Winkler. He understands that you need to understand the ways that you are investing. Now, it is his job, and he has qualified, certified financial planners. He has people that understand the business better than anyone I've ever talked to. I am a client of Paul Winkler's. I am also a paid spokesperson for Paul Winkler. I love the way that Paul Winkler runs his business, and I believe you will too. You can have a 15-minute telephone conversation with Paul today. Merely dial up this phone number, 615-851-1950, and talk to one of his group, 615-851-1950, or go to paulwinkler.com and find out the different investment strategies and educate yourself to the best way to invest in these crazy volatile times in late 2024. It's paulwinkler.com. Had to swallow my gum there. Hello, it's 2:07. Good afternoon. Welcome back. Matt Murphy Show, Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Pleased to have you with us on this Monday edition. Lots going on. We've got the drive coming up at 3 o'clock this afternoon. Brian Wilson back in the saddle. It is our episode 657 of our visits together. It's also Locks for Trump Day number 205. Don't forget about the big debate watch party that's happening October 1st. We're very excited about it. Obviously excited to watch J.D. Vance take on Tim Walz in the latest round of debates. Looks to be the last debate, as Kamala Harris and Donald Trump can't come to a decision. Donald Trump doesn't believe that there will be any fairness opportunity offered in a debate. And Kamala Harris claims that they would be willing to do it, but they only do it if the deck is stacked against her political opponent. That said, the debate is set for Hot Springs. A big watch party will be there. I mean, you can find me. Brian Wilson will crank up his show at 3 o'clock. Then the entire team will take over about 6 o'clock, as we normally do, offering analysis and what we expect and anticipate out of the debate. Had a big time last time around at Cedar Creek. Scoreboard Cedar Creek was a big, big time, and we expect the same on October 1st at Hot Springs. Of course, we had a great time at Hot Springs back in June. That was Joe Biden debating folks back then. So, and we know what happened to him, of course. So, not only will the entire gang of Super Talk 99.7 WTN be there, but also Fox Nation is going to be there. They were looking for a location around the country to join in a debate watch party, and they were nice enough to pick you. They didn't pick me. They didn't pick Brian. They didn't pick Chris. They didn't pick Dan. They picked you, and we would love to see you there as a result. So come on by and say hello to us. Hot Springs event starts at 3 o'clock. The debate watch cranks up at 8 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
You know what happened is they saw what Nashville did with the NFL draft, and it was here, and they're like, we got to get us some of that.
Yeah, no question. I mean, we had, I don't know how many people we had last time. Sammy, you were there. Was it 250?
No, it's over 300.
About 300,000.
No. I'm talking about the last debate watch party at Hot Springs. I don't.
Yeah, it was about 300,000.
We had a lot of people.
Okay. 275,000.
Oh well, yeah, a little less than the big NFL draft. So, sure. Well, you know what? Next debate watch, we ought to just do it downtown on Lower Broad. We set up a stage there at the river and just do it that way. Anyway, we'd love to see you. Hot Springs, Murfreesboro starts at 3. Food, drink, beverage, all the things that you would come to expect. And you come on out and see us at the debate watch on October 1st. I have an update on. You missed our conversation about Half-Head Guy, Bill.
Whoa! You're jumping the gun here.
What?
No apology needed.
What do you mean?
The Dick Act of 1903.
Oh, yeah, the Dick Act of 1903. You want to explain to them what it was?
It was also known as the Efficiency and Militia Act of 1903, and it partially codified under what circumstances the National Guard would be called by the federal government.
What now?
It was...
What?
Okay, here we go. Militia Act of 1903.
Okay.
Enacted by the United States Congress
AKA the Dick Act.
To create what became the modern National Guard from a subset of the militia, and to codify the circumstances under which the Guard could be federalized.
Well, there you go.
And that it was named for Senator Charles Dick, who authored the legislation.
Well, there you go. 1903, the Dick Act. Wait, you learn something. I learn something from the listening audience every day that I host a show on Super Talk. And there's something that I learned today. I didn't know a lot about the Dick Act. By the way, there's according to a loyal listener, Eric, on the Super Talk text line, there has been a wreck at the intersection of Harding and Battery Lane just before FRA. What is FRA? What am I missing?
Franklin Road Academy.
Okay, well, there you go. So y'all be on the lookout for that. If you're out and about, this early afternoon. Kathy writes in and says, Matt, if you swallow your gum, it stays in your stomach for 7 years. Okay. You know,
everybody knows that.
My mama had me convinced and petrified. My mama had me petrified of swallowing watermelon seeds.
Yeah.
Because I was convinced. She said, if you swallow a melon seed, a watermelon will grow in your stomach. And eventually, she said that the watermelon vines would come out of your ears. And I believed her. And one of the reasons I believed her was like a day after she told me this initially, and I was probably, I don't know how old, 7 or something like that. Like the day after, we were in the grocery store and a pregnant woman goes down the aisle. And my mom looked at me and she swallowed a watermelon seed. You see that? And I'm like, oh no! Oh no! Did you see a man with a big beer belly? Watermelon seed. Oh no! So yeah, I was convinced of that. I always thought the chewing gum stuff was a bunch of hooey. Even as a young lad. You chew gum, Ken?
You know what, man? I don't.
Yeah.
I'm too tempted to just eat it.
Well, I do. I'm trying. I shouldn't pimp for these people. I mean, they're making enough money anyway. But I found out about this Neuro gum.
Neuro gum.
Neuro. Neuro.
Okay.
And it's supposed to be a more natural way to gain energy and focus.
Well, I'll be.
And I'm trying to drink less caffeine, Ken Weaver.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I got this, it's vegan, it's aspartame-free, sugar-free, and gluten-free. No glutens.
Yeah.
Stay away from glutens, unless it's in the beer. But yeah, so I'm trying that. So let's see how that works. I would show you on camera, but I don't want to give them free advertising.
No, you don't want to give anything free.
No, they pay good money for that. But this is a company. I dig this company. I did a little research on them. Mm-hmm. I have mad respect for this. You ever watch that Shark Tank? Or the Shark Tank. You know what I'm talking about? Where,
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Where the millionaires and gajillionaires sit there and they decide whether to invest in the various companies, and a lot of times it feels like they're screwing over these poor people that just need a little money, a little seed money to get the investment rolling. Well, apparently these NeuroGum guys came in and wanted, $1 million for 5% of the company, and the Sharks all wanted, they said, well, we'll give you, $500,000 for 10% of the company or whatever. Anyway, they offered them a lot of what these guys wanted, and the guys said, no, we're walking away from it. And they're like, oh, you're making a big mistake. You're making a mistake. You're going to just fall on your face. Well, that was like in 2018, and their company was valued at $1 million in 2018, and now it's valued at like $75 million.
What do you think about that?
How about that, Sharks?
There you
How
go.
about that, Mark Cuban?
Kevin O'Leary, Mr. Wonderful.
We need to get him on the show. No. He's doing a lot of Fox. No. What do you mean? What are you grumping about?
He's just a nasty person.
Why do you say that?
He's just, he's not a
You don't like him?
I don't like him at all.
Does he say bad words?
No, I mean, he knows how to handle himself in a public forum, but he's not, he thinks he's all that in a bag of chips.
Well, most millionaires do, Bill.
Yeah, but we don't have to encourage that kind of behavior.
I mean, it's not like we're inviting stupid Mark Cuban on the show. I mean, you're telling me new things.
He and Trump are the two billionaires I've ever met. I've worked for there was a third. So I worked for 4 billionaires, and I've met 3.
Wait, stand by.
I worked for Madonna. She's a billionaire.
What?
I worked for David Geffen.
I feel like you've. Hey, Ken, what do we call this in the business? He buried the lead.
You buried the lead.
You worked for Madonna?
Yeah, at her record label that she owned.
Lord, how you have fallen from grace.
Did you ever see her?
No, thankfully. And we used to bug our boss all the time. It's like, do we get to meet her? He's like, you don't want to be on that radar.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, fair enough.
What radar?
She was not somebody that was prone to censoring herself if she was unhappy with you.
She was, I feel like Madonna, obviously, she's a weirdo, right?
Well, yeah, certainly is now. But I worked for her, I worked for David Geffen, and I worked for Richard Branson, and I worked for Ted Field. And they were all 4 billionaires.
And now you work for me. I'm kidding. You don't really, but
sliding down into the gutter.
I just like saying that. That seems like a downhill career trajectory that you're currently
Thanks
on.
for pointing that out to the listening audience and letting them know how far I've fallen.
If we're anything, we're honest. So you've met Donald Trump?
Yeah, I met him at, what was the pageant he owned?
It wasn't Miss America, it was Miss USA.
Miss USA, yeah. I met him at a Miss USA pageant when I had the musical guest when I worked at Geffen.
Well, I'll be.
Or the
Did you know this, Weaver?
I did not know that.
I didn't know this either.
And I met Mark Cuban when he was doing a pilot for a television show that did not get picked up because my friend in Dallas, Cindy, she was auditioning to co-host with him.
Huh.
Well, I'll be.
Mark Cuban, you look at Mark Cuban, and he's like a guy that's wearing one of these really realistic Halloween masks to me. You know what I mean? It's like, he's got a face in there somewhere. I don't know really where it is. But back to Half Head Guy. So last week.
Oh, yeah, I've seen this. So I know.
Have you seen the guy we're talking about? Uh-huh. Well, have you seen the update? And no. Congratulations to, let me look this up because I want to update you guys because several of you asked me over the weekend about him.
Nick Barris over there at 5.
Nick Barris. And kudos to Nick Barris for doing the investigatory work and tracking this young man down. He's a fellow by the name of Jonathan. And he is apparently as we hold on a second. Why can't I find? There it is. Got the latest on this situation from Nick Barris over the weekend. Nick Barris reports, and we talked about him last week. Someone sent me a couple of photos and said, "Is this real?" And it's a guy. If you see some of these photos that are circulating around, this is a man in Nashville that has a massive head injury. And he decided to leave the hospital before the head injury was fully healed. And he was seemingly of sound mind, despite the fact that if you see the nature of the head injury, you would have a difficult time understanding how he could possibly be of sound mind. I'm not trying to be graphic when I say this, but it looks as if part of his brain is gone. Certainly part of his skull is gone. But it is not for the faint of heart. So if you're looking it up or if you decide to look it up, just be forewarned that it is, it's a difficult watch. But we talked about it last week, and several were asking if it was real. We initially was like, this has to be Photoshopped. This has to be some sort of AI, but it is real. This man is named Jonathan Johnson. And according to Nick Barris, he had been wandering downtown in Nashville. He is missing most of the front of his head. Nick Barris found him and talked with him. He said, on Friday, a Good Samaritan and I found Jonathan, and we took him to a hospital emergency room for treatment. While the wound looks horrible, it is not life-threatening, at least not for now. They cleaned it and gave him a prescription for antibiotics. Then Jonathan was released. He spent last night, that would be, I guess, Saturday night, in a hotel paid for by the Good Samaritan. I contacted my friend, Metro Councilman Jordan Huffman, who has since arranged for more permanent housing for Jonathan in a group home where he now can get the help that he needs. In case you missed the original post, you may wonder, how did Jonathan lose such a large chunk of his forehead? Jonathan says he was hit by a car 7 years ago and had a plate put in his head. He came to the Nashville area and in the past year suffered an injury that required the removal of the plate. And it's not clear what exactly has happened between then and now. He apparently left the hospital and has walked around with an open head wound since then. Barris reports that Jonathan seems to be a sweet guy. He oftentimes seems confused. He has no family here. He is homeless, in need of help. Jonathan told Nick that he is a veteran, but that those helping him have not been able to confirm that with the VA. Again, he is confused. Either way, he needs help. Jonathan is now off the streets and getting a certain amount of medical help. So you can find, if you look up Nick Barris's post, he has several photos of Jonathan with a hat on. And apparently that is something that he can do. With a hat on, he looks, relatively normal. But if he takes the hat off, then you see that he's missing a large portion of the front part of his head. So I just wanted to update everybody on that story, and it looks like Good Samaritans have found their way to young Jonathan, and they're trying to get him the help that he needs because he clearly needs some help.
Yes, sir.
If he is actually a veteran, that is a terrible indictment of the VA.
Well, I mean, anything that the government touches
turns to garbage.
And but sadly,
for somebody to need that much medical assistance and be a veteran and not be able to get is ridiculous.
Well, I'm hopeful that he gets the help that he needs, and we can offer you a good report down the road. 615-737-9986. Coming up, speaking of reports, I mentioned that Kamala Harris decided to skip the Al Smith dinner. We'll give you some updates on that, plus an update on the quote-unquote assassination letter released by this character in Florida. Why in the world would the same federal government that told us that we weren't allowed to see any writings on the Covenant Manifesto for well over a year because, quote, investigation, that same federal government released this information like that regarding the assassination attempt against Donald Trump? More on that coming up in a moment on Super Talk. I mentioned my great friends who, in part, sponsor our Super Talk television side of things, US Pest, and how wonderful they are with their and for their community. JK and Eric, I had a chance to break bread with them last night. They're such great people. Now, the fact that they're great people and the fact that they run a great company, those two things are not necessarily part of the same deal, right? I mean, but it really does help how wonderful they are for their community members, how much they believe in the United States of America. That translates to their business model. It truly does, because they want to treat you, everyone around them, like family. And they try to do that with each employee of US Pest, and that ultimately filters down to you, the customers of US Pest. Now, if they treated you like family and they didn't get rid of those bugs, you probably wouldn't use them very long, right? I mean, but they do treat you like family, and they do get rid of those bugs. All of these common bugs found in the South, these threat pests, as we call them, whether they be spiders or roaches or ticks or fleas, whatever they might be, if you're looking to get rid of them on your property and in your home, it's time to call the one and only US Pest. They have a free home inspection available for you, and they're ready to help in any way possible, including termite protection. Call 590-1260. That's 590-1260, or go online at uspest.com for US Pest.
More U.S. troops on the move to the Middle East and Trump assassination attempt suspect update at 2:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you much, Mr. Ken Weaver. It is 2:26 right now. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, real quick, remember Ms. Gladys? We had a Ms. Gladys, I guess, last year?
Yeah,
or a year before last?
She was an attendee at the Charlie Daniels Patriot Awards.
Happy birthday to Ms. Gladys.
What is she now, 102?
101.
101. She's had a pretty good run.
Oh, man. Ms. Gladys, David Corlew sent me an update. They built Ms. Gladys. She's lost a little bit of her eyesight, so she doesn't get around as well as she used to. But they built her a ramp on her property so she could get in and out of her home a little bit easier. David Corlew and team did. So
she is a veteran.
She is a veteran, and they take care of their veterans. And she is 101 years old. So Ms. Gladys, what a wonder! I mean, one of the best conversations that we've had since I've been in Nashville, Tennessee. Can
you imagine having been in Hawaii when Pearl Harbor happened?
I mean, no. I mean,
it's got. I guess it would be akin to the 9/11 or something like that. But I mean, we always think about that in kind of esoteric terms, though, where that's a thing that happened and she lived it.
And what about this? We will get old enough, yes. God willing,
yes,
where there are people like us. Because when I grew up, when you and I were growing up, I mean, this is just kind of the circle of life, right?
Yeah.
But when you and I were growing up, we heard about Pearl Harbor, and it was this thing that was so far away and was difficult to understand or comprehend.
Yep.
Well, Ms. Gladys, 101 years of age, lived through it.
Yep.
You and I lived through 9/11. And, I mean, Sammy, I don't mean to put you on the spot. How old is Sammy?
How old are you?
Are you willing to tell us? I mean, this is dangerous.
21.
You're not 20. She's shaking her head. She says you're full of it. Well, one way or the other. I mean, do you remember 9/11?
You remember 9/11?
Vaguely.
Yeah.
Right. There are people. I mean, I bet KGB doesn't remember 9/11.
Probably not.
I mean, yeah, it's 23 years old now.
Yep.
So if you are under the age of, I don't know, 28, 29, you probably don't have any memory of that. Well, let's flash forward another 20 years where you'll have people that are 40 years of age that were not born at the time of 9/11. Hello, me and you, and we'll talk about it, and they'll go, oh, yeah, I bet it was horrible. And they just don't quite understand it, just as we don't understand Pearl Harbor. Now, I will say this, the amount of information that was immediately available in 2001 versus the confusion, and Ms. Gladys talked about that massive amount of confusion, that they didn't know when the attack would stop. They didn't know necessarily what was happening.
How expansive it was going to be, any of that.
Didn't know what was happening on the mainland. I mean, there was confusion as to whether or not there were places on the continental United States that were simultaneously being attacked while Pearl Harbor was being attacked. And nobody knew. Some people on the mainland didn't get information. I mean, on the East Coast, they didn't know anything about it till the day after. I mean, it's just an incredible
And it's not like that was poorly documented. It was actually for the times. It was documented extremely well in terms of news reporting and video and photos and things like that. But you look at how much information and how much videography and pictures there were of 9/11, and it's just crazy.
And there are some people that still believe that Pearl Harbor and 9/11 were an inside job.
And I turned myself into a pickle.
And you turned yourself into a pickle. Ms. Gladys, Sally says, must be one hell of a lady. Absolutely. Sandra says that it was inappropriate. Several people actually are telling me that it was inappropriate for me to ask you how old you were, Sammy. So I apologize. Sammy says she doesn't care. She's shaking her head. I felt comfortable. I know Sammy. We've met. We've talked. We've broken bread. It's all good, everybody. It's not the first time I've met somebody. And by the way, Sammy looks to be around 23 years old. So I don't have any fear that I'm aging her, dating her in any fashion. It is 2:30. Before I dig this hole any further, I'm going to hand off to Ken Weaver in Super Talk 99.7 WTN in the newsroom.
2:30 on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. We've got some pockets of heavy rain here in Nashville, some of the heaviest over there by the airports, impacting part of your drive there on I-24. Full forecast coming up in 5 minutes. Mideast wars raging on, and the Associated Press says the Pentagon announced today it's sending more U.S. troops to the region amid escalating attacks between Hezbollah and Israel. It didn't say how many troops or what that mission would be for these additional troops. And a federal magistrate judge in Florida says the man suspected in what the FBI says was this month's apparent assassination attempt of Donald Trump will remain in jail as the case against him proceeds. Here's Stephen Portnoy.
The hearing lasted about 3 hours, with the magistrate judge ultimately deciding that Ryan Ruth should be denied bail. Prosecutors offered new evidence that they say could support a charge of attempted assassination of a presidential candidate, including a handwritten note written months ago in which Ruth is purported to have said, quote, "This was an assassination attempt on Donald Trump, but I am so sorry I failed you." Ruth was also said to have a list of places where Trump had visited or was expected to appear.
Right now in Middle Tennessee, human remains found on a Wilson County property earlier this month have been positively identified as a missing Nashville woman. Police say DNA analysis confirms the remains found on September 12th on Burnt House Road is 23-year-old Blanca Guadalupe Barrios Ariana. Ariana was reported missing by her mother on August 21st after she said she was heading to Murfreesboro. Several law enforcement agencies in Wilson and Rutherford counties being led by TBI in that investigation. Appalachia High School students in Winder, Georgia, going to go back to class this week for the first time since a deadly shooting earlier this month that claimed the lives of 2 students and 2 teachers. The school hosting an open house today for returning students and their families. Here's Barrow County Sheriff Judd Smith at that event.
Today is a huge step for us healing in this building behind us.
That section of the school where the shooting occurred will remain closed. 14-year-old Colt Gray has been charged with murder in this case. His father's also facing second-degree murder charges. That's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
The Dr. Gill Center for Back, Neck, and Chronic Pain Relief is located in Franklin, but truly anywhere within the sound of my voice, if you're in pain in any form or fashion, let's get you pain-free and do so in a way that you don't have to pop pills, that you don't have to worry about needles that block pain, and you don't have to consider surgery. It's possible, friends. I've had it happen to me. As a matter of fact, I became a customer of Dr. Gill's very soon after moving to Nashville, Tennessee, because I had some extreme pain in my neck and I had some severe pain in my lower back. And I knew I needed to address it. My neck hurts no more. Thank you to the spinal decompression technology that Dr. Gill and his team brought to Nashville and Middle Tennessee some 30-plus years ago. And then there's the lower back pain. I'm able to play golf. I'm able to function. I'm able to get out into the yard and do yard work, things that I could not do. I was considering giving up golf because of the back pain I was experiencing. Not so much anymore. Thank you to the Dr. Gill Center. So if it hurts on your back, your neck, your hip, your knee, your elbow, any place where it hurts, where your joints move, they can help you with the Dr. Gill Center for Back, Neck, and Chronic Pain Relief in Franklin. Give them a call at 615-882-4838, 882-4838. It's the Dr. Gill Center. Super Talk 99.7 WTN, cruising through a Monday afternoon, handing off to Brian Wilson in the drive less than 30 minutes from now. Ken Weaver in the newsroom has been reporting this latest development in the second assassination attempt against Donald Trump all afternoon long, and I've been reporting it as well. And I've not gone deeper into it, but several of you have asked the question, and I agree with you, and I have thought similar things, and it's a little bit confusing to me. And sometimes I have to lean on the field producers that ultimately make up the listening audience of the Matt Murphy Show to figure out what's going on, because you're all kind of field producers in a way. So first, they found and decided to release a letter that seemed to be an assassination letter written by would-be assassin Ryan Wesley Routh, and they released that to the public. Now, in 2023, an assailant went to Covenant School and shot up the school and killed 6 people. That individual left behind reams and reams of written documentation about her mental insanity. She left behind journals that were referred to as manifestos. The general public was curious as to what might be inside of those journals, and we were told that we had no business seeing what was in those journals, and secondarily that we could not, and the federal government told us that the reasons that we were not allowed to see it was because of an ongoing investigation. Ultimately, Michael Patrick Leahy of the Tennessee Star, I know that Brian Wilson had some of this documentation given to him through a source, and he reported on it. Michael Patrick Leahy did the same, and then eventually the Tennessee Star released around 80 pages of a journal that ultimately confirmed to most of us who looked through it the mental instability, truly the mental insanity of the individual responsible for the Covenant School massacre. But focus on the reasons that we were told we were not allowed to see that. In an open, liberty-minded country that believes in open government, you ought to be able to see these things that come to the forefront of these types of investigations that impact our communities. You compare the inability to access that information to the ability, apparently, to access this assassination. Now, I mean, I'm looking at the assassination note, and that's a little over a week old. Dear world, it says, this was an assassination attempt on Donald Trump, but I failed you. I tried my best and gave it all the gumption I could muster. It is up to you now to finish the job. I will offer $150,000 to whomever can complete the job. He apparently dropped this box off at someone's home that included the letter and other items, including ammunition. We're told, this doesn't make any sense. We're told that he dropped this off, quote, months prior to the incident. Law enforcement officials were contacted on September 18th, 5 days ago, 3 days after he was arrested, by a person that said Ralph dropped off the box at his location in the months prior to the incident. The witness opened the box after learning of his arrest, found ammunition, phones, and various letters. Prosecutors said the note and other evidence found at the scene show a need for Ralph to be detained while the government builds its case against him. Because the facts are offered for limited purpose of supporting the United States request for pretrial detention, the facts in this written proffer do not set forth all the information and evidence known to the United States. So this begs the question, what is this letter about? Why, if this letter was dropped off months ago, is he saying that he failed in his attempt to assassinate the president? How could he know that he had failed in his attempt to assassinate the president? I mean, I'm glad he did, don't get me wrong, but it doesn't make any sense. He went on to say that everyone across the globe, from the youngest to the oldest, knows that Trump is unfit to be anything, much less a U.S. president. U.S. presidents must have at minimum, embody the moral fabric that is America and be kind, caring, and selfless, and always stand for humanity. Trump fails to understand any of this, is what he wrote. We are told, why would you declare your own failure months before you engage in one of these dastardly acts attempting to assassinate the president of the United States? Why would you do that? Unless this is one of several letters left behind and we haven't seen the others. It makes no sense to me. It is confusing to say the least. Have there been other assassination attempts that we don't know about? Maybe he tried to do it once before, didn't get caught, but failed in his effort. Maybe it's a pre-written letter in case he was killed or didn't succeed. Maybe there's another letter. I mean, if there's another letter, we get to see this letter, but there's another letter that he wrote in case he succeeded? Is that what we are to understand? I don't know. I also don't know why it was so easy for the American people. And trust me, I applaud this side of things. We are, if anything, an open government that believes that we, the general public, have the right to see these types of things. I was one of the ones standing against the federal government's effort to prevent us, as painful as it might be, to prevent us from seeing the writings of this transgendered individual that committed these evil acts in Nashville, Tennessee, at the Covenant School. So what was different? You don't get to see one, you get to see the other. A week later, you get to see the other. Why so soon? And why only this letter? Matt, don't you realize that you homophobic, redneck nose pickers have no right to ask anything from this government? You will get to see whatever the imperial government decides to let you see. Homophobic, redneck nose pickers. Sir.
Is that a Georgia swipe?
No, how dare you say that I'm homophobic? I'm not afraid of gay people. The rest,
maybe.
You got to do what you got. I mean, you got to do what you got to do. You can't leave it up there. I mean, what am I supposed to do with it?
We have very dry air here sometimes.
That's what I know. And conditions change. I get the allergies. You got to do what you got to do. All right, 47 after the hour. The Teamsters won't endorse Kamala Harris or Donald Trump, but the IRS union sure as heck knew who to endorse. So, you know the story from last week, right? The Teamsters union, they did an internal poll of who their Teamsters supported, and at a 2-to-1 rate, the Teamsters supported Donald Trump. So instead of doing what their membership demanded of them and offer an endorsement of Donald Trump, they decided that they weren't going to endorse anyone. The Teamsters union not endorsing anyone tells us everything we need to know about where the Teamsters are on this election process. But the IRS union sure knew who to endorse, the National Treasury Employees Union. In other words, the IRS union, a union that represents a variety of federal agencies, including those of the Internal Revenue Service, put out a statement this week praising Kamala Harris for increasing the budget of the IRS, and they endorsed her for president of the United States of America. Ladies and gentlemen, the tax collectors have spoken. And they love Kamala Harris.
I'm not sure that's the best endorsement you can get and want to be waving around.
The IRS, it's hard to get through it without laughing. The IRS Agents Union just endorsed Kamala Harris. The tax collectors endorsed Kamala Harris. The NTEU, their official name, explained its reasoning for endorsing Harris, stating that the Biden-Harris administration, quote, delivered agency budgets that provide federal employees with additional staffing and resources, including significant new investment to rebuild the IRS under the Inflation Reduction Act. Well, who doesn't support rebuilding the IRS? We need more IRS agents knocking on more doors, demanding more of your money. So says Kamala Harris, as endorsed by the Internal Revenue Service.
And just out of curiosity, what is the one federal agency that has said we don't need more money? We don't want more money.
I can't think of one.
It's a trick question. There isn't one.
Think of one, Bell. We didn't prepare that, everybody. Bell asks these questions, and I give honest answers, and I couldn't think of one. You know why? Because there isn't one. They always need more money. Well, there's an endorsement that we can all get behind, I suppose. It's 2:50 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. When we return, we'll check in with Brian Wilson. He's back from a couple of days of R&R. We'll find out what's happening on the drive this afternoon. Super Talk 99.7 WTN winding down the Matt Murphy portion of the day, getting ready to crank up the drive with Brian Wilson. And to preview said same, here he is, Brian Wilson. Hello, Mr. Wilson. How are you,
Hey,
sir?
first of all, thank you for filling in for me on Friday. Greatly appreciate it. I had
Yes,
a few
sir.
days off. Went to see Steve Martin on Thursday night. That was a real treat. And then hung out with some people on Saturday to watch the Volunteers play. And I ever since I've been practicing how to say Nico Iamaleava, and I've got it down. Can you say it?
Nico Iamaleava?
There, Nico Iamaleava. That's hard to say.
Wait a minute. Hold on a second. I suspect shenanigans. I think you might have pre-recorded that.
What are you talking about? I can say it anytime Nico Iamaleava. Nico Iamaleava.
He can hit the button anytime he needs to.
I figured,
That's right, Brian. Brother Brian's got a sound machine there.
I figured out.
Say it. Nico Iamaleava.
Yeah, there you go. He says it again. Say it one more time, Brian.
Nico Iamaleava.
It's funny because if I think about
Nico Iamaleava,
the Maliava part, I've got Maliava, but then for some reason, if you try to add the Ia on the front, it screws my brain up.
It's adding the first name that throws me off.
Well, I'm surprised that you, in the presence of Ken Weaver, brought up.
Yeah, it was. But I tell you, the Vols look good.
Oh boy!
And I have to have one football team that I can root for because the board of the poor Titans just.
That's a hard watch, man. That is a hard watch.
Can I just say, I'm not a big sports expert, but I've been watching football since I was a kid, like a lot of people, and it just seems to me that, they got the pieces. They just haven't put it all together yet, and everybody's down on the quarterback, but, Will Levis is not a bad quarterback if you give him some time in the pocket, and he doesn't have any time in the pocket.
I think 8 sacks.
8 sacks
yesterday.
Yeah.
Brutal. So how do we start the drive today, Brian?
Well, Kamala doesn't think that we have any people in combat zones, but we're sending more to combat zones. We'll talk about what's going on in the Mideast and the United States response to all that. The assassination follows on both of them, and then also a lot of 2024 news to catch up on. So a busy show straight ahead right after the news at 3 o'clock.
Yes, sir. Brian Wilson on the way back in the saddle for another edition of The Drive this Monday, right after Ken Weaver's newscast, as mentioned. We'll get to that newscast right now, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow afternoon, starting at about, high noon or so. Until then, have a wonderful day, folks. Hug your loved ones. So long, everybody.